So, WWE Hell in a Cell 2018 show was last night. I watched the rebroadcast when I got home late last night, so yeah, pretty much going strictly by my notes here, sorry. But unfortunately, I did also find a minor drawback to Renee Young now being part of the Raw commentary team, and that's Jonathan Coachman is now hosting the kickoff show. Also, Paige was part of the kickoff show. I don't know if it's a permanent thing or not. Also, and David Otunga wasn't there. Booker T was there, and then they switched Booker out with Otunga. So there was one little highlight of it though, and that was after they played the vignette for the mixed tag match between Miz and Maurice and Brie Bella and Danny O'Brien. They Booker said, "Man, I wish my wife Charmel would could come back," and everyone, "No, no, 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 no." Anyway, our first match on the kickoff show is the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match: New Day versus Rusev Day. And basically, if you don't know what the story is, I think it was Eric Rowan tore his tricep. And so the Bludgeon Brothers had to, well, they didn't forfeit, they just dropped the belts to the New Day right after SummerSlam did. The New Day in this case consisting of Kofi Kingston and Big E. Kofi and Aiden English opened right up. Kofi had a nice flying double stomp. Rusev tagged in, he hit a big fall-away slam. Kofi hit a flying DDT from the second rope. Big E got the hot tag. English he hit Aiden English with a belly-to-belly. English, there was another point where they were setting up the spear for Big E to send Rusev, where Big E does his spear through the ropes. And Aiden English blind tagged in, he hit a somersault plancha. He then hit basically a sort of front fall DDT on Big E for a 2 count. Kofi broke the tag. The New Day hit a double stomp powerbomb. Basically, Kofi went with his flying knees, and Big E had English, I believe, up for the powerbomb. English hit a flying splash on the Kofi for a 2 count. At this point, Aiden locked on the Accolade. And Rusev was begging for the tag because he could see Kofi was starting to fight out of it. As this was happening, Big E started to get in, so Rusev went after Big E and ran just enough of a distraction so that English got distracted too, and that enabled Kofi to hit the Trouble in Paradise for the 3 count and the victory. A really good match for the kickoff show. This one probably should have been on the main show. I don't know what I would bump off of the main show after this, but yeah, maybe they should have just had another kickoff show match and moved this one over to the main show, because this was a really good match. Good solid storytelling throughout. Again, don't know exactly what they're trying to do with Rusev Day. I hope they don't break them up right now, because I think they could. I would like to at least see them win the tag belts once. I think that could help bolster a breakup storyline a little bit. Okay, so moving on to the show proper. They actually made a change to the Hell in a Cell this year. They painted it red because it's not a Raw exclusive show, so red means hell, I guess. Anyway, the first match of the show proper is the Hell in a Cell match between Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. Jeff is, well, guess technically still wrestling. Yeah, I know he's due for another break here because his injuries are dogging him again. Matt basically retired over the weekend. Filled out his obligated advertised dates and basically said, I can't do this anymore. If you know, he has a problem with his spine fusing to his pelvis, and unfortunately that's had to just end it on a very sadly unceremonious note. Right off the bat, Orton kicked Hardy off of the ring apron and into the cell. Jeff came back and actually had some offense of his own. He threw Orton off of the... He did a couple of spots where he took Orton, he did the Irish Whip. Orton hit the cell wall and then bounced back and hit the ring post. And after that, Hardy hit Poetry in Motion. He had a chair slide up and he knocked Orton back into the cell wall again. Orton came back, he hit a superplex. Orton hit a front suplex onto, he set up a ladder in between the, he set it up inverted so it was like this. He set it in between the wall and the set and the ring, and he hit like a big front suplex, dropping Jeff across those little metal support parts of the ladder. Orton removed Hardy's belt and he started whipping him with it. He removed Hardy's top and started whipping the exposed skin. He hit it with a chair. And then came the part of the match that I think everyone's going to remember from this is that Orton found a screwdriver from a toolbox that was under the ring, and he stuck it in the piercing hole in Jeff's earlobe, the large piercing hole that he's been sticking his finger in, that Orton has been routinely pulling on and sticking his finger into. And from what I've understood, really, really stinks. But he took the screwdriver, he put it into that, and he started to pull and twist on the earlobe. And, it definitely did add a flavor to this match. Orton hit his Hangman DDT, but Hardy converted an RKO attempt into a twist of fate. He came back, he had a swanton onto a chair for only a 2 count. Hardy then set up 2 ladders, a small ladder, a much larger ladder, and then a table next to them. He climbed both ladders to start swinging on the roof of the cell, trying to get in position to land on Orton, who was draped on the table. And Orton, it's sort of mistimed a little bit because Jeff is swinging back and forth. I think Orton was supposed to swing off while Jeff was kind of in this position where he really couldn't see. So Orton was going to roll off, and then Jeff would drop down onto the table. But they mistimed it because Jeff was more like right here, and so Orton is off, and Jeff is basically just sitting there and willingly dropping down onto the table. And basically this kind of knocked Jeff out. They're checking on it. The ref's checking on him. He calls down for the EMTs. The cell starts lifting, but Orton says, nope, this match isn't over yet. I'm going to pin him. You're going to count to 3, and that'll be it. And that's basically what happened. And then Jeff left on a stretcher. This surprisingly did feel like a Hell in a Cell match. It's probably the first real Hell in a Cell match, real feel Hell in a Cell match for, man, I want to say maybe even 5 or 6 years that this really fit. Yeah, where we're really pushing it as to what was capable inside of this. Good high spots action. Again, obviously the screwdriver bit, and the ending bit with the ladders and the swinging on the cell roof. Like I said, a little mistimed, but I think it still worked in terms of the storytelling. And it seemed to start off a good right tone for the night. Okay, our next match is the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Charlotte versus Becky Lynch. This match actually got kind of spoiled for me. I'd look at my phone for something, and it was right up on the top of the Bleacher Report app. So yeah, I get the little bulletins from it, and so that was right up on the top there. As Charlotte came out, there were quite a high amount of fans holding up "I boo the woo" signs. Becky opened up a lot of chain wrestling to open the match up. Becky had a front face lock on Charlotte. Charlotte countered that into a waistlock takedown. Charlotte countered a leapfrog into an attempted figure four. Becky dropkicked Charlotte off of the apron, dropkicked Charlotte off of the apron, then hit a flying forearm. Becky landed, locked on this kind of bridging hammerlock. She had the hammerlock in, and then she was bridging back on it to torque it even more. Charlotte dodged a leg drop and kicked Becky in the back of the head. Becky came back and hit an arm wringer slam on the ring apron. Charlotte went up for a moonsault. Becky dodged that and locked on a guillotine choke. Charlotte countered that into a short arm powerbomb for a 2. Becky came back at a death drop DDT for a 2 count. At this point, Becky rammed Charlotte's shoulder into the ring post, setting up for the disarmer. She then pulled Charlotte's injured arm against the ring post. Becky tried to go for the disarmer, or she went on to the disarmer, and Charlotte just got to the ropes. Charlotte got up, speared Becky, but Becky managed to roll through the spear into a pinning predicament for the 3 count and the victory. Becky Lynch is now finally the SmackDown champion, SmackDown Women's champion again, almost 2 years since she first won it. Good match. Again, kind of wish Becky had won at SummerSlam, but at least now this story arc is complete. They're still trying to push her as a heel, even though everyone is cheering her. Even after the match, Charlotte went to basically shake Becky's hand. Becky said no, held the belt up, and celebrated as she went back up the ramp. Again, crowd still cheered, no matter. So it's like, no matter what, Becky is basically the babyface of this feud, even though WWE is trying to say otherwise. Also, throughout the match, throughout the night, they were announcing matches for the Super Showdown on October 5th or 6th. 6th, I believe. And we have the SmackDown Tag Team Championships are going to be on the line. The New Day versus The Bar. We got Ronda Rousey and the Bellas teaming up to face the Riot Squad. John Cena and Bobby Lashley are going to be taking on Kevin Owens and Elias. The Shield are going to be taking on Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre. And there's going to be one more, but I'll get to that. Okay, our next match is the Raw Tag Team Championship match. Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre versus the Shield, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Ziggler and McIntyre won the Tag Team Championships a few weeks ago over the B Team. It was so big that no one reported it, even though it happened on Raw. Anyway, right off the bat, Rollins and Ziggler started off. Ziggler tried to go for a tag, but Rollins pulled him away low. And then he and Ambrose double-teamed on Ziggler for a while. Ziggler hit... McIntyre got a tag in eventually and demanded that Ambrose be put into the match. Ziggler ran a distraction, which allowed McIntyre to lariat to the back of Ambrose's head. Rollins came in, he had a sling blade, and followed that up with a spin kick. McIntyre distracted Rollins, allowing Ziggler to hit his big jumping DDT. McIntyre prevented a tag by pulling Ambrose off the ring apron. Ambrose eventually got the tag. The ref didn't see it though, and Rollins had to fight back, hit McIntyre with a blockbuster, and finally gets the tag to Ambrose. Ambrose comes in and hits a regal cutter on Ziggler for a 2 count. McIntyre hit a belly-to-belly suplex into the turnbuckle on Ambrose. Dolph hit a zigzag on Seth Rollins for a 2 count. Ambrose broke up an attempted Claymore and allowed Rollins to hit a super kick frog splash combo. Eventually, Seth did his superplex into the Falcon Arrow maneuver, but as he was setting up for the Falcon Arrow part, McIntyre got into the ring, hit the Claymore, allowing Ziggler to unconsciously pin Seth Rollins for the 3 count and the victory. After that, McIntyre carried Ziggler to the back. Yeah. This was a really good match. It really did kind of drag a little bit in the middle. There was a lot of rest holds going on. And again, the rate this was going, I thought, oh man, did they front load this show? Because it seemed like there was a whole bunch of good matches, and could we be in for some clunkers real soon? Okay, our next match is the WWE Championship match, AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe, and this was another one that wound up getting a little spoiled for me. Also, this really should have been Inside the Cell. You could count me among the chorus that believe that. You could have had 3 cell matches on this show. I don't think it would have hurt that much. Anyway, right off the bat, Styles attacked Joe right after the bell, but Styles hit a big running knee on the apron and slammed Joe. It hit Joe so hard that Joe slammed his head off the announce table. Joe countered a plancha with a big kick, and then he slammed Styles into the ring steps. Joe hit his corner splash enziguri combo. At this point, Styles rolled out of the ring. Joe followed that up with a suicide forearm that sent Styles into the announce table. Again, a lot of rest holds kind of took place here, but Joe came back in a flying shoulder tackle for a 2 count. Joe went for a superplex. Styles fought out of that attempt, dropped Joe onto the turnbuckle. Styles hit the flipping death drop DDT. Only got a 2 count on it. Styles actually managed to hit a torture rack slam on Joe. That was rather impressive. Styles came back hit a springboard 450 for a 2 count. Styles went for the Styles Clash, but Joe countered that into a lariat for a 2 count. Joe countered a calf crusher attempt into an enziguri. Joe countered a phenomenal forearm into the coquina clutch, and Styles managed to get just enough of a flip to get into the pinning predicament again. Basically the same thing that happened at the Women's Championship match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn last month. And again, we wound up with a 3 count and a victory. However, replays after that revealed that Joe had thought that Styles had tapped out because as the ref was making the 3 count, Styles was tapping, but the ref was not in the position. Joe was blocking Styles' arm, which was kind of right here doing this. The ref was right over here, so he didn't see it. And because of that, after that, they announced that at Super Showdown, it's going to be Styles versus Joe one more time for the WWE Championship. Also, after the match, Joe tried to take the championship belt, but Styles hit the enziguri. Yeah, they didn't quite show the tap out right away, so people were kind of confused as to what was happening with Joe, but after they showed it again, it began to make a lot more sense. This was another really good, really solid match. I mean, it did kind of drag, much like the tag match before, it did drag in the middle. But again, overall, this was shaping up to be a pretty good show. Okay, our next match is the mixed tag team match. The Miz and Maurice versus Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella. Brie and Maurice did actually open up, but Maurice immediately turned around and tagged the Miz into the match. Bryan went for an early yes lock attempt, but the Miz managed to roll out of it. Bryan turned around and tagged in Brie. Maurice immediately turned around and tagged the Miz back in. Miz hit his corner clothesline. Bryan came back. He put on a yes lock, but Maurice broke the hold. The Miz dodged a flying drop kick. Bryan came back, tried to do his flying headbutt, which he really should not be doing. But the Miz dodged that. Brie eventually got the hot tag and went after the Miz. Brie came back in a missile dropkick from the second rope on Maurice. Brie and Bryan hit stereo yes kicks on their opponents. Brie started to go for a move, went into a roll-up predicament, but Maurice rolled through that into the leverage pin, was holding the tights for additional leverage, and got the 3 count in the victory. Bit of a stunner. I thought they would go 50-50 booking here and allow Bryan to get something of a victory over The Miz, but that's not the case. Obviously, they're going to have probably a Maurice Bree match at Evolution. Don't know where this is exactly going to start going. I don't think we're going to see any more mixed tag matches for a while, though. This was pretty much the beer match, but it was okay, not spectacular. But again, I knew they were probably going to start cooling down to go into the main event. Okay, our next match is the Raw Women's Championship match, Ronda Rousey versus Alexa Bliss. Alexa came out with Mickie James and Alicia Fox, while Rousey just had Natalya in her corner. Rousey hit a judo throw and then went for a quick roll-up. Rousey hit an exploder suplex and tried to go for the armbar. Bliss got to the ropes. Bliss hit a hair pull over the ropes. At that point, they were selling that Ronda had a rib injury as Alexa targeted it. Got in a lot of good licks there, got some good kicks, and she went for a bow and arrow a couple of times. The second time, she actually did the bow and arrow around the ring post. At that point, some outside interference began to happen as Rousey began to rally. Alicia went after Natalya, which allowed Mickie James to get which distracted the ref enough for Mickie James to get a cheap shot in on Rousey's ribs. Eventually, though, Rousey fought back again. She had a big gut-wrench powerbomb. She then hit her spinning Samoan drop and then locked on the armbar. Alexa Bliss immediately tapped. No real shock here. Match itself, again, was okay. A little too much shenanigans on the outside. But other than that, maybe you should have just had one in the corner instead of instead you have Natalya dominating two women, which didn't really make a lot of sense in the strictest sense of the term. But again, overall, this was an alright match. And again, we're cooling down going into the main event. And our next match is the main event, the Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Universal Championship, Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. This is officially Braun Strowman's Money in the Bank cash-in. And Mick Foley is the special guest referee. Right off the bat, Reigns was holding the championship belt, and Strowman ripped it out of Reigns' hands just as the bell rang. Reigns tossed Strowman into the ring post and then knocked him off the apron into the cell. And, Strowman tossed Reigns into the ring post and then knocked him off the ring apron into the cell wall. Reigns hit a drive-by dropkick, which sent Strowman into the ring steps. Strowman chokeslam Reigns on the ring apron. Reigns dodged Strowman, who wound up hitting the ring post. Reigns countered a chokeslam with a Superman punch. Strowman countered a spear by smashing Reigns with the ring steps a couple of times. Strowman pounded on Reigns with the ring steps again. Strowman hit a running power slam, but only got a 2 count. Strowman set up a table in the corner, and Reigns speared him through it. And it's this point the shenanigans started to kick in. Ziggler and McIntyre came down. Reigns and Ambrose followed. They began fighting. All four of those guys got on top of the roof of the cell. Eventually they started to climb down. Rollins and Ziggler were fighting, and they fell down and hit the announce tables. As this was happening, Reigns and Strowman were just there in the ring doing nothing, just lying down. And it's at that point Brock Lesnar's music hits. He comes down, he rips off the cell door, Heyman maces Mick Foley, and Lesnar just attacks Reigns and Strowman. Another ref comes in to call the thing a no contest, and yeah, this really ended the show on a fart. I don't mind the idea of Lesnar coming down and interfering. I do a little bit in the sense that the whole point of the Hell in a Cell is that interference isn't supposed to happen, but it's like, one, it was way too much interference. The shenanigans with the Shield and Dolphin Drew was it took way too long to develop. Like I said, that was what I was covering was about, it was between 5 to 10 minutes because they had guys slowly climbing up on top. They're fighting on top of the cell, and then they're slowly climbing back down. And I have no idea what happened to Ambrose and McIntyre after that. I just know Rollins and Ziggler, and then again, yeah, before Reigns or Strowman could do anything, Lesnar's down there. I would have at least liked to see one of the guys, either Strowman or Reigns, get up and try to fight Lesnar a little bit, but no. And again, the whole point of the Hell in a Cell matches are no rules, so how could it end in a no contest? At least have, like, maybe Reigns crawl over and very meekly pin Strowman. I mean, it wouldn't have been the greatest finish, but it would have at least been a finish. And, this did knock the show down quite a bit for me. I thought this was an A show going into it, but now I'm just going to have to give it a B. Like I said, overall, most of the matches were really good, and then the main event just kind of killed it. Okay, so the next video up is going to be the House with the Clock on its Walls review. I have already started work on the Random Trade Review episode 100. The next wrestling show is obviously going to be Super Showdown. Obviously that'll be viewed as a kind of tape delayed thing because even when it's airing live, I think I have to work. So it'll be up probably on the day that it aired. See you all next time.
Hey guys, tired of me always talking about WWE and NXT? Want to see me cover something like, say, Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, anything else? Check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time Cat Productions and see how you can help me expand my wrestling coverage.